They just changed the requirements now for live, so they won't let me go live now.
Who's that, Instagram?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's cool. Welcome back. Welcome back to another live discussion of Real Talk.
Real talk. Let's go.
Co-host,
What is you doing, my guy?
how you been, man?
I'm fantastic.
Well, put your glasses on.
I'm fantastic. Let's go. Let's get it.
How was your week?
Good.
Nothing spectacular, nothing changing, nothing new. Same old.
Just making Jesus first.
Making Jesus first.
What does
that mean? People in church say,
right.
keep God as the head of your life, or keep God first.
Mhm.
What does that mean? Does that mean the first thing in the morning when I wake up, and then I can do whatever I want to do afterwards? Is it as long as I say something to him first, like I give him praise first? What does it mean?
What would Jesus do, right? That's like kind of keeping God first. It's like you saying to yourself, hey, let me think about how this would look in the eyes of God before I go to do this. Let me think about what would this do to my faith before I go and do this. So keeping God first is kind of like always saying to yourself, I'm going to think of God first before I make actions. Particular actions that I feel are more, morally rooted. I'm not going to think of God first when I'm cooking breakfast. You know what I'm saying? Do you think God wants me to have eggs today or oatmeal? No, that's dumb. That doesn't even make any sense. Like, am I going to say that
picking what store to go to?
Pick what store again? No, that's not going to be something that I'm going to be concerned about. Life isn't supposed to be so fragile in your thought process that should I go to Target today, or should I go to Walmart today, or should I go to Macy's today, or should I go to JCPenney today? Should I go? It's like, no, that's not how you conduct yourself in your faith. But what I can say is I might get up and start telling myself, oh, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go do that, which is okay. But for some reason, after my morning prayer, I feel strongly impressed to go a certain direction. I'm assuming that's just me, but then as I go about that direction or going that way, suddenly a bigger blessing ends up unfolding in front of me that I didn't know was going to happen. That could be a favor, or that could be God, redirecting you. I don't think he's going to have you wake up in the morning and him telling you, hey, I want you to have breakfast at 8 because I need you to get down to the store by 8:30 because I got a blessing for you there. Oh, come on now. I mean, we spiritualize
ordered like that.
That's too spiritual. Order my steps in the Lord is a perfect verse. I'm glad you brought that up to saying keeping God first. Like, give me wisdom, Lord, on what I should do in this situation. That's keeping God first. It's not you just the worldview of Christianity when it comes to politics. How do we deal with that, right? How do we, look at our roles and our responsibilities when it comes to politics? Not just me as a general citizen of my state, county, or country, but if I were to get involved, if I were to place myself in the political realm and start functioning as a politician, seeking an office or seeking, whatever, what should the Christian be concerned about, or what should the Christian consider when operating in that direction or dealing with those type of things in their day-to-day life? So this is what we're talking about when it comes to Christian politics, or Christians in politics, or Christians in politics, or Christian politics, whatever, however you want to say it. But it's an idea that we should be considerate of. And it's a thought that we should be taking time to consider and ask ourselves, am I actively involving myself in my responsibilities, right? when it comes to politics that govern our nation.
So, and before we jump into the Ninth Amendment, what would you say to people who are saying like this series, it's long, it's drawn out, and what is this meaning? What does this meaning have anything to do with the gospel and anything with like spiritual things? Like, what does talking about politics have to do with anything in your godly life? It just seems like it should just be talked about for a little moment during political season. We're not in that season right now. Why spend the time addressing these things if you're a believer? What's the impact there?
So hearing that question, my thoughts would always want to direct the conversation into, let's talk about God himself first.
Okay.
As a Christian, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about God himself first. Let's talk about the characteristics of God, the character of God, okay? And if we were to discuss the character of God, we'd have to ask ourselves then, are the characteristics of God only displayed towards those walking in the faith? Would that be a reasonable question to ask?
Is it a reasonable question to ask? Yeah, it's reasonable.
Okay, so if I were to ask you, if you're in the faith, and I were to ask you, are the characteristics of God only reserved for those in the faith? What would you say to that question?
I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm a follower of God, what does that mean from the first question that I asked?
That means that I get some specific type of blessings, or you asked me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see how you're interpreting what that second question. So if I'm a follower of God and I understand the characteristics of God are not only mandated for those that are in the faith, but for all people, and now I am a follower of God, what should that say about my characteristic?
That I should show that amongst people who are not just followers of God, but those who are unbelievers as well.
Right. So then, therefore, if that's the case, wouldn't I want then to advocate in society laws that improve the well-being of others and that demonstrate the characteristics of God? For instance, that which is just, that which is fair, that which is right for all people, not just those that are like me. Would you say that's a reasonable expectation?
Yes.
So those three questions that I just asked should sum up the answer to what you asked me earlier. Why should I be aware or concerned about Christian politics, or not Christian politics, but Christians and politics, or Christians in politics? Why should I be wrapped up in that when I should be more concerned about preaching the gospel and getting people to have biblical intelligence and biblical literacy and so on and so forth? Nobody is saying to ignore that. But if I'm in such a pluralistic society, meaning a society that everybody assumes they're right in their own ideology, right? Pluralistic society, I then have to make sure I'm still advocating what we as Christians believe. There is intrinsic value in everyone, regardless of what they believe. How do I uphold that in a society and advocate that to make sure that everybody is treated equally and fairly? Because I understand everybody is made in the image and likeness of God. Do I make them a Christian? Is that the only way to advocate fairness for others? Or based on the design of God, we have governments or we have systems that should be in place that foster and encourage fairness for all citizens under those rules or governance.
Touche.
Isn't that considerable? I mean, shouldn't a Christian have that kind of philosophy, that mindset, that kind of compassion?
Yes.
Should.
Yes.
I'm not saying they do or all Christians do, or I'm not going to say that Christians don't advocate favorable amendments or favorable laws, but as a believer, I should be favoring all of the laws, because all of the laws should be shaped and demonstrating fairness, equality, and what's right for everybody. We shouldn't just want to be like freedom of speech or gun. I want my gun rights, but you don't even care about if somebody has the right to vote or has the means or the legitimacy to vote. You understand what I'm saying?
Just get you an ID, man. You'll be fine. You get you an ID, you don't got to worry about them laws. Ain't no voter suppression. No, that's good. That's good. Right? I think so. And I think it's something that, churches are on different spectrums are on. So that's why it's always good to kind of remind, especially as we get to number 9 and as we do number 10 and take a break, it's kind of good to just wean people back in to see, like, why are we even going this route? What's the importance of this anyways?
I used to be one of those people. I'll be honest. I used to be one of those people that keep, like, what the world needs is Jesus. That's all the world needs is Jesus. They don't need the amendments. They don't need the laws. They just need Jesus. Because if you got Jesus, you got to do right. Once you have Jesus, everything will be all right. But you need Jesus. I agree. Humanity needs Jesus. The Bible says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So the gospel is to remedy the eternal judgment that's going to happen. So the gospel remedies the eternal judgment. However, prior to that, we are given the glorious opportunity to be able to enjoy this side of heaven, walking in time in this world, wherever it may be, if you're in America or Canada or Egypt or Germany, Israel, wherever, you have the glorious opportunity to enjoy this life prior to eternity. What are we doing with that time? What are we doing with that time given to us in our personhood that advocates that which is the things of God? Now, as a Christian, I should want to pursue the things of God. As a believer in the faith, I should want to pursue those things that represent the kingdom of God. But others don't think about the kingdom of God, but they still want to pursue good things. They want to see good for others. They want peace with one another. They want to see peace on earth. They want to see justice for all and so on. And they pursue that. So we want to be able to ensure, or as a believer, we want to make sure that what we're doing in this time that we're given, this opportunity that we're given to share wisdom that will foster that which is good, right, and true for everybody, while simultaneously telling people the remedy of the judgment that is to come, that's going to be God's judgment upon humanity. We're not ignoring the judgment of God while trying to advocate the things that need to be advocated for while on earth. And I think that's where Christians get, and I understand it, and that's where you get confused, because you're so passionate about Jesus and you're so passionate about the things of God that you feel like that's the only thing that I should be talking about, when in all actuality you should be talking about that while also advocating the things that are good, right, and true for all mankind.
Amen. Ninth Amendment.
All right.
What are we talking about?
All right. Are y'all ready for the Ninth? Are you ready for the Ninth Amendment?
Let's get it, man.
You sure?
Let's get it.
I tell you. Yeah.
Let's get it.
Okay. This one gets some static.
You said that about the 8th.
No. This one gets some static. All right, I'm going to read it.
Elder, what up? My favorite elder.
What's going on, sir? What's going on, Doc? Good to see you tonight. Okay, the Ninth Amendment. Y'all ready? The Ninth Amendment. This is how it's worded in the Constitution. The Ninth Amendment, which is one of the Bill of Rights. It says this: the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. I'm going to say it again. The enumeration in the Constitution. So let's just break that down for a second. The word enumeration means number, in number system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So the enumeration that's in the Constitution. So when you see the Bill of Rights and you see the Constitution, Amendment 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so on, right? Those rights shall not be construed, meaning that is not the tell-all to deny or disparage or to prevent other rights that we have, that which the word retained by the people. So basically what it's protecting citizens from the government if you have people who want a strong government. Now, we'll talk about this in a minute. What we've been studying in the Constitution is you always have to remember the framers were influenced by common law over in England. They were influenced by the way laws were drafted and executed in England. So when they come over to America trying to, redo a governed system, they were influenced by what they've experienced and the education that they had and all of the things that collectively they retained to try to put forth and work very hard and struggled to try to frame the wording properly so that it made sure it was good for everybody. So in the 9th Amendment, while you have this enumerating of laws or amendments, what they didn't want people who are very strong about strong oversight, having a strong government. What they did not want to see happen is somebody saying, okay, these that are numbered is what the citizens get. That which is not numbered, we now can dictate what we want to do.
So basically, 1 through 8 at this time.
1 through 8 at this time.
That's written down. They're saying you actually have liberties and freedoms and
all
rights.
All of these, that's it.
Outside of what may be listed in 1 through 8.
That's what 9 was protecting. But others are saying, no, we like a strong, like the Federalists, or they were called back then, wanted strong oversight. They wanted to have strong oversight. They wanted to be able to say, like an individual you and I both know would say this. I believe that you can do everything the Constitution doesn't say, where others say you can only do what the Constitution says. That's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican to an individual. So anyways, that's kind of like that. Just because it's not enumerated in the amendment, what the framers are saying is that doesn't mean there aren't other rights that we retain as humans that are still protected by this Constitution. This Constitution is going to recognize these inalienable rights that we intrinsically possess that are still going to be protected by this Constitution.
Yeah, I think I was reading something that talked about how Hamilton did not. That's why he did not want the Bill of Rights written, because he felt as though once you write something down, you're now obligated to it. Mm-hmm. And so his idea was, don't write down what your liberties are, because then people will just hold you just to that. Whereas you had, I believe, anti-federalists. I believe, I could be wrong.
Anti-federalists, yeah, federalists and anti-federalists.
Which are called other. We're like, no, we need to put this. We need this written down. Like we need this to be stated and heard. But it led to this uproar, which then made people state, like, wait a minute, all because something is not listed in 1 through 8 doesn't mean that you don't have the right as a citizen.
Like you don't retain certain inalienable
which is important
rights.
Because that means at that time, we're not even in 2025, but at that time, you're having people who are looking at the framework of the Constitution and some of the amendments and saying, I can only do what you say.
Or, well, the biggest piece is this. The Constitution that we all are upholding only protects this.
Yes.
What their framers are saying is, no, this Constitution is also going to protect these other unwritten rights that you still possess as a human being. Yeah. Now, that goes into why it's so important for Christians to pay attention, because where did these inalienable rights come from? How do you possess those rights? What are they, right? Mm-hmm. Now, as a believer, you should automatically realize, being made in the image and likeness of God, you possess intrinsic value that must be protected at all costs, no matter what your perception is of life, or regardless of what you believe in life.
Well, you said as a believer?
As a believer, you should. All people should, but as a believer, knowing that man is created in the image and likeness of God, you should realize that there are certain rights about us. The intrinsic value within each of us should be protected at all costs. We should always be advocating that, meaning all men should be free. They should be given the right to pursue liberty and never be infringed on that pursuit simply because of the intrinsic value you're a human being.
Got it.
There should be no biasness in that at all, though there have been clearly. But as a believer, I should see that as very, very important. That should be a focal point of my worldview, that human beings should have the right to pursue liberty and have the right to liberty.
Agreed.
So if I see laws being written that are counter to that, I immediately should advocate against that. Regardless of the individual.
I shouldn't say, well, it's not impacting me and it's not harming my family and I didn't write them, so it is what it is.
It is what it is. I'm not going to get involved because it's not affecting me, so therefore I'm going to stay quiet.
Yeah.
No, you should understand the law that's being written affects the intrinsic value of a human being, and you should be advocating against anything that desecrates the intrinsic value of a human being. So, to the conversation, if you see that all of a sudden we're going to enslave a group of people in America right now, I don't care what your worldview is. You should advocate against that. Even if you are not of that family, tribe, ethnicity, you should advocate against that kind of law being drafted, because you know
we don't sit back and say, well, now it's just your turn.
No, you should not. No, you should not. No, it's not your turn. It should have never been anybody's turn, nor should it ever exist, ever, for anybody.
Understood. And
so that's what it means. Inalienable rights, intrinsic value. So, all right. So are we good as far as about 9, right?
So far, so good.
About,
well, just understanding that all because something isn't written down doesn't mean that that's just the totality of it. Correct. And that's very good to understand that there are some rights that they haven't put in there. I think there was a case that I was reading in Connecticut somewhere. Anyways, it's about contraceptions. And
oh yeah, that was I know what you're talking about.
And basically, the state had enforced something where you couldn't get it, and the Supreme Court overruled them and said according to the 9th Amendment that no, these are personalized rights. Though it's not written. There's nothing in the amendments that state
marital privacy. Is what they're saying. Marital privacy. You should have the right to marital privacy. Nobody should be invading that.
Right, correct.
And so contraceptives, they struck it down, and the married couple could get contraceptives because they did not want to procreate. It's not like they denied procreation. They themselves had the right. They have a right to not procreate.
But it wasn't in the amendments. There's nothing in the amendments that said it.
Right.
And so they were like, no, the 9th Amendment catches that.
Yep.
So
even the right to privacy, even a part of this was with abortion. Part of this was with abortion. And then there's other rights of privacy that falls underneath the 9th Amendment that, again, addresses, because, quote unquote, it's not written. Well, no, okay. There are some rights that you should you retain, even if they're not enumerated in a constitution or a governance law. You know what I'm saying? Rule or whatever. So this was a very, very important. But what I love about studying this and having gone through this and working through this is just realizing, first of all, because it was a new country, right? It was a new nation emerging, right? Mm-hmm. It's always power leverage. Everything's about power leverage. How can I leverage? How can I and my group leverage ourselves to influence and benefit off of what we can get into existence? So heavy governance encouraged economic security and economic growth. And that's what some of the framers and some of the forefathers in that early group that was helping a nation rise were focused on. They were focused on how are we now going to benefit. My thing is this. You saw what was happening in England, the same thing. But again, because it was a new nation.
Because you're in a different position.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. Now you're in a role that you can actually frame things that would benefit you and have it control how society functions so that you reap the benefits from that. It's always a power struggle. And that's the problem that you as a believer have to be very careful, because many times we vote because of how it benefits us, not on the nature of the law itself and how it should be benefiting everybody. We also choose not to vote because we don't want to hurt a certain condition that we're reaping from, or it keeps us in a comfortable position where we don't have to speak up against it, because if so, then it puts me in an uncomfortable position with a group of people or even family or friends that I don't have to deal with, because I would rather live comfortably because I'm benefiting from the current situation that this government is in right now, whatever time frame where that statement would be in. The statement I just made, whatever time frame, that not now, but 100 years ago, 200 years ago, or 300 years in the future.
Gotcha.
And I think as a believer, that's why it's extremely important that your heart is really monitored. You really have a heart check as far as, how you perceive things, how you look at things. I'm not telling you have to believe the way I believe. That's not what I'm saying. Vote the way I vote. But what I am asking, and what as a believer, a true believer, somebody who really understands the image and likeness of God we all possess, we should come to the table willing to have a good dialogue, a good conversation. How do we get way over here?
We're not way over there. We was addressing about, you said you enjoyed when you went back reading the Ninth Amendment, just like the way that the framers can go from on one end seeing something,
and now they're in control to do the same thing. That was going on in England. And if you notice, a lot of the amendments that we've been studying, basically, again, they all have some form of connection to the common law of England and how they were trying to avert having that happen. But here we are almost doing the same exact thing. And what I was saying that is the power struggle, the need for power, the need to be in control, so that, okay, I believe in controlling your own destiny. I believe in that. I believe you determine your tomorrow based on the sums of things that you've done today, right? The sum of the things that you've done today will reflect in how tomorrow looks, or your future is what we mean by tomorrow. So if I'm lazy today, I can expect no gain tomorrow. If I'm working hard today, I can expect gain tomorrow. Maybe a little gain, but there's gain. Mm-hmm. So I determine my tomorrow. I determine my future. So yes, we want to be able to have laws that improve our future, but it should not improve just my future. It should improve the future of everybody having an opportunity, a fair opportunity into the future.
And we should work very hard to make sure those things are being implemented.
Yes.
One of the clever things that you can see with laws is
clever.
It is very clever. Is the ability to see something written in black and white that seems to give you fairness, seems to give you equity, seems to give you value, but then you recognize when it needs to be implemented now to you, implemented to now others, you don't see it taking place. But if you would go in the courtroom, if you go anywhere, it would say, no, wait, no, these things are legal. It's a lot. It's boom. And so, it's important to not only just fight for making sure that we have good laws, but that we're also fighting to make sure that they're being administered and implemented fairly as well too. And I say that because
how would people know that? Like, for instance, you're more informed of the laws that are being drafted, right? Or spoken about, and because that's what politicians do. I'm going to fight for you and I'm going to make blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. But how would you be informed of knowing when it's implemented and how it's being implemented? You get what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, so depending upon what the things are. It could be, and I'm going off of just looking at some of the amendments, how at one point in time, early on in the amendments, it talks about what is a citizen. And then later on, we have to go back into the 14th Amendment and then talk about people who are enslaved are now like we have to go back and again and say something that's already known. Voting, people had rights early on in the amendments, and now we got to go back later on into other amendments. So it shows it was written to the letter of the T already in law, but why do we have to come back with another law in place? Because then the implementation of it.
So basically, I hear what you're saying now. I get what you're saying. So
that's the explicit way.
No, I get it.
Versus getting to the
challenge would be then is like whoever's crafted the bill, right, to the letter sounds philosophically awesome, right? But we're not aware of the loopholes they've created that people really didn't pay attention to where, you had an opportunity to vote, but really what it was is, they created all these loopholes, right, that prevented a certain race of people from being able to vote, which now had to be ratified in the 14th Amendment and to give people the right to vote. You with me?
Yeah. Or
how would somebody then understand that? That would be something.
It's written like this: hey, everybody now has the right to vote. Then you go and you find out that your voting station is 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
You have no transportation or means. All the bus stations now are uprooted up out of your. So now you see, like, on the surface level, the law says everybody can vote.
Yeah.
But now you're doing everything to make sure nobody can vote.
Mm-hmm.
Their polling station that was right there is shut down. Their ability to have public transportation to get there is shut down. And those things I'm saying you look into, but you then go and take that up with, your local Congress member. That's where you go and look up laws, and that's where you're like, okay, you almost have to be, I would have to say this in a sense, like a skeptic, and while you're listening to the bill yourself, say, okay, how do we ensure? I guess that's how you look at it.
Yeah.
How do I ensure
that's going to be
that it's going to be implemented to not just me, but like you said, everybody in my community has the, even if they don't agree with what I'm voting. How do I ensure they have the right to get to their polling station and to get to, like, how do I ensure that? Mm-hmm. And that's where you ask these questions, and to your Congress members, you ask these on your local level. What are we doing to ensure that like this bill that we're passing X, Y, and Z?
I think that's a good point, Jack. I think one of the things that we need to do is hold the Congress, our local.
Yes, your local.
Our local is ensuring that and holding them accountable to ensure what was passed down from the federal to the state to the local, that the local representative is ensuring that is being dispersed properly for their constituents in their region.
Agreed.
And then if we find out that they're not, then now you have another conversation. You have to be like, hey, we voted for you. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Obviously, you're not doing it for whatever reason. That's on you, but you may not get a second term, or you may not be in the office next term.
Yeah, if you can't ensure that
not
only that a law is in place, but that it can apply to everyone, then
I agree. I think let's go back to what we said in the beginning of this session, because, like, for instance, we love talking about the things of God. Typically, Jack and I are having discussion about Christianity and how it's impacting the church and what Christianity looks like today versus biblical Christianity. We have those dialogues, and usually there's a lot of verses involved and more spiritual, quote unquote, verbiage used and so on. But while going through this series of the amendments, there's less and less Bible talk. But that doesn't mean we're not doing something that God ordained. What I mean by that, again, is this. As a believer, if I understand that humanity, all of the creation of humanity, is made in the image and likeness of God, I then must uphold and advocate everything that helps produce wellness for the personhood of every individual. I should be considerate and concerned and advocate that all men are treated equally, that all men are respected equally, that all men are granted equal opportunity, regardless of their belief system, regardless of their feelings, emotions, thought process, belief, whatever it may be. I, as a believer, should always have a heart towards God's creation. Humanity is a part of God's creation. Therefore, I should advocate for all of humanity. I should not be on one side of the aisle that might speak about God on this topic, but completely avoids and abandons God's ordinances when it comes to other aspects that helps humanity. And this is why conversations like this need to exist, for the sake of just probing you as a believer, probing your mind into really thinking about how it is our responsibility to uphold and advocate for laws and our government to be accountable to making sure that people are treated fairly, respectfully, and honestly, regardless of others' opinions about another human being. I should care less about how somebody may feel about Jack because of their personal opinion of his background, social status, ethnicity, whatever it may be, his gender, doesn't matter. As a human being, I must respect him and I must want to advocate for his well-being regardless of any of his status.
And to that point, I would just state that what is a huge echo from the scriptures about these things that we've talked about from Amendment 1 to 9 is loving your neighbor
as thyself.
You
have to keep that in there.
Because when you're going through these things, a lot of times in our mind, we'll read a verse and, it has so much power in me. I'm going to love God, and then I'm going to love thy neighbor as thyself. And then you get to things like this, and you're like, what is this? This isn't godly. And it actually... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just, like you're saying, is like, your statement is a perfect scenario that Jesus meant, because he was saying those things, love thy neighbor as thyself. Some smart aleck says to Jesus, who's my neighbor? Because in your mind, that's how many Christians think. They're thinking to themselves, oh, I know who my neighbor is. It's Joe, man. Me and Joe get along great. I'm going to do him right. I mean, that's my guy. I'm taking care of Joe. But Jose over there, you could care less about.
Stereotype him, stop him for a second. He deserves
Jermaine,
it. This person
you don't even think about. Juan, you don't even want to help out. Sue Young, you don't care about. Huh?
But your Uncle Tom, you're okay with? I was trying to follow it. I was trying to go with the names. Move it. But that is the piece of loving thy neighbor. And that is the challenge that makes you then have to say, how do I see things without any partiality? How would I want this to be, like you said, thyself is the standard. I would want to be able to have these opportunities. I would want to be treated fairly. I would want to be treated equally just. And these things right here matter. And for me, this is where I think people are missing the power of God in these moments like this, because they're looking for lost books, hidden books, different day to choose between Sunday to go worship, because they feel like they're not seeing changes and things going on in this country and on this earth. But the change is how you engage with people every single day, whether it's your work, whether it's your family, but you neglect these things to talk about politics, which affects morality being instituted through law. And you think these are things that are minor. We don't need to talk about this. And you spend all your time in services, which is not a problem, but light is supposed to shine in darkness. And where are you loving your neighbor as thyself in situations like this? Where are you where people can't say anything about God, and yet you find yourself there? Are you going to be respectful? Are you going to turn your head and say, I know something was done wrong to them, but serves them right because or are you going to be the person that's going to love thy neighbor as thyself? These type of situations, these type of events, these amendments, these things allow us to ask ourselves, how would we carry these things out that would allow people to know that we are Christians by our love? And that's where it matters to me, because these are things that we daily can do, where some people just want to look for a moment on a week.
What's going on in society and who's doing what and how can you get involved? And, I think And that's another thing. Like, I think sometimes people just don't even know how to get involved.
Yeah, I do think that some of it is just, okay, just give me help me to be more aware. Let me know where I can go to get information on my local congressman. Hey, you talk about some of these bills that to the letter they seem as if I had the rights, but then later on I had to get new. Like, walk me through how because I always thought that if something was written in black and white law, like, you have the fairness, you have the opportunity right then and there. Like, how can you still be stopped while there's a? So I do think there is a piece of that people want the information, and I also think, but I think most, because they couldn't get that information or couldn't figure it out, just suppressed it. Like, just basically, it was just like, we don't need to worry about that. And you find that with most people in general, their insecurity of not knowing, either it leads you to want to know, or it leads you to say, it's not worth it. Let's go to something I do know.
And I also think it's good that by having this conversation, it kind of helps improve the importance of what Timothy said, praying for, the magistrates, praying for kings that are in control, and, submitting yourself to them, not submitting as if, like you just let man govern your life. But
what did that lady say? What Donald Trump? What's she talking about? Like what?
She was saying, if you go against Donald Trump, you're going against God. Like, that's
not the submitting authority.
Paula White said that. I'm going to call it out. Paula White said that. A heretic of the faith, Paula White. She's on national, international TV. She's President Trump's spiritual advisor. And her statements are, if you go against Donald Trump, you're going against God. That is the most blasphemous thing you could say.
Calm down. We're on TV.
We're not on TV.
we got 2 followers, though. We don't want to see you in that light.
Anyways, but what I'm getting at is, as you become more familiar with the importance of this type of stuff, it should help you to want to say, we need to be praying for so-and-so. We need to be praying for Donald.
That is true, yes.
We need to be praying for presidents, vice presidents. We need to be praying for our congressmen. We need to be praying for people that are in office. Not to say, Lord, I want them to win. I don't care who's in office. Lord, give them the wisdom to do what's right for the people. Lord, give them the courage to stand up for that which is right, regardless. Not because it favors their party, but it favors humanity. It favors the people that are in need of somebody standing up and speaking for them. That's what should help you to become more sensitive, to be like, Lord, we're in a world that you've given us to be good stewards over. And now that we're stewards, we need to steward ourselves and how we work through this system that we have. You know what I'm saying? And be mindful of it. As a Christian, your Christian life or your Christian duties are not segregated from your civil duties. What I mean by that is this: your Christian duties are injected into your civil duties. It should help you to uphold at a higher level the civil duties that we have towards people. You should want to never break the law. You should not want to kill people. You should not want to steal from people. You should not want to possess your neighbor's goods and so on. You should not want to lie on the stand that could affect somebody wrongfully. You should not want to do those things. You should not want to, see people hurt just because they're of a different ethnicity. Like, you should not want that. So therefore, your Christian duty is integrated into making sure we uphold them and advocate for upholding the civil duties for everybody to do what is good, right, and true. We are not Christianizing our society. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is that which is just, that comes from God. That which is good, that comes from God. That which is right, that comes from God. That which is fair, which comes from God. We're upholding those things for everybody. And so, it's important to, have these kind of conversations in churches. You're having revival. What is the purpose of revival? What is the purpose of revival if it's not reviving and impacting your community? Like, what I mean by that is not the economical adjustment, But first, the moral adjustment that you want to see people treated fairly. Like me being revived back to God. What should be happening is my reviving back to God should make me see man differently. That I should, as you said earlier, love them as myself. I should be concerned about the welfare of humanity. That's
their spiritual life and their net. Yes,
exactly. So my revival back to God should give me a totally new perspective on how I see people. There's no way you're having a revival back to God and you're still holding on to thought processes that were birthed out of the 1920s, 30s, and 40s and still calling yourself a Christian. So it's important. It's important for us to be able to, it's important for us to be able to understand these things and uphold these things. Amen?
Amen. All right. So we will see you back here next week.
This is good, man.
7:45 p.m.
This is a good conversation.
We got one more amendment left.
One more minute left?
One more amendment left.
Oh, one more amendment left. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we are gone. So until then, we'll see you next week.
Our dog got
7:45 p.m.
We got this dog down here creating problems.